Everyone loses money. It costs you nothing. In fact, it builds quite a bit of character. In fact,
Ain't no way he's doing the raise the price of rent. That'll just make me grind harder. What is happening?
With fallout from President Trump's trade war, his tariffs sent shockwaves through the market. Stocks had their biggest one-day loss in 5 years. It's been since the pandemic. More than $3 trillion of value was wiped out. The worst one-day losses for the S&P and 500 and the NASDAQ since 2020. Because concerns are growing about the impact on businesses and consumers. Trevor Alt is on Wall Street with the latest. Good morning, Trevor.
Good morning, George. And this harsh drop in the markets is only fueling fears of a potential recession. JP Morgan analysts have now updated their chance of a recession this year to 60%, meaning they think it's more likely than not. And we have seen stocks get heavily slashed since these tariffs were made official, and it seems like the bleeding may not stop anytime soon.
Please, Mr. President, the bleeding is too much. I will say you will keep bleeding. You'll say so much winning. You'll say, Mr. President, please, no more winning. I'll say, no, we're gonna keep winning.
This morning, the widespread fallout from President Trump's sweeping tariffs. The stock market losing $2.5 trillion in value Thursday.
Okay, let's do a little bit of hogwatch because I want to see some of these. I want to see some of these hogs defend the tariffs, okay?
People understood the tariffs that President Trump is implementing. I wish more people knew what kind of freedom that's going to give the American people. Woo! President Trump is trying to use these tariffs to get rid of taxes. And I'm telling you guys, he is very smart. That's how the country was ran before taxes. I truly have a hard time understanding how anybody could be against that. I understand maybe not liking him.
I like that this is somehow good for her. Like in her mind, she thinks this is good for her. Oh my God, we are so stupid. Oh my God. That is the scariest part of this equation. The scariest part of the complete collapse of the global economy. Outside of all of that is the idea that Donald Trump is going to somehow make up a shortfall for gutting income taxes in its entirety, okay, which is like the last remaining progressive form of taxation that doesn't overwhelmingly burden individuals in the working poor, in the working class, as opposed to the wealthiest people in society. That's the one type of progressive taxation that remains, and it's already far too little in comparison to what it should be at, okay? And these people are going, hell yeah, no more taxes. It's going to be so much better. It's like, listen to me very carefully, okay? Tariffs will not be able to make up for the lack of income taxes. Part of the reason why it won't be able to is because, let's say, 30% of your salary is back in your pocket, okay? None of the programs that it funds at the state level will exist anymore. How do you build the roads? How do you pay for the school? How do you pay for anything? What are you saying? What do? We just Ancapistan? Like, what are you guys saying? Even if you're like an MMT guy on the federal level, like, what are we doing in state level? Where so much of those taxes go back directly to that you are consuming, using all the public resources that you take advantage of that you think are magically there, but they're not magically there. You're funding it. So I guess we're just nuking America. Like, I don't know. We're doing nukes. We're BDSing ourselves. We're doing boycott, divestment, and sanctions from the United States of America to ourselves. If you are a working class individual, okay, and it looks like you got an old ass, like, I don't know, Chevy Silverado or whatever the you're driving. It's not like you're caked up, Deborah. You should not be excited at the prospect of no more taxes, no more income tax. Could this hurt Israel in any way? I hope not. I sure hope not, chatter. Don't worry.
But who could be against getting rid of taxes? Who is against having more money in your pocket? The only people that could be against that are the people who has truly never paid taxes. Before you complain...
Brilliant. Yeah. Only people. Well, let me tell you, okay? Listen, Deborah, I pay more taxes living in the communist nation state of California than you have in your entire life. I pay more taxes in 1 year than you do in your entire life. You've paid in your entire life. Let me tell you something, okay? Let me tell you something. As someone who does that, it is my patriotic duty to do so, even though most of it still goes to Israel. Not most of it, but you know what I mean. Even though a lot of it goes to the police force, which is the domestic military force, and a lot of it goes to military R&D, I understand that even if in the margins there's like some of the funds that finally go to the schools, then it's worth it. And I wish we could restructure the way that we do our expenditures, both at the state level, both at the local level, and certainly at the federal level. But beyond that, even if a little bit of that is going back, like, it's good. That's a good thing. Okay? God damn, dude. People are crazy.
And talk about how terrible it is. Give him the opportunity to show you. I hope all you guys are having a wonderful day. It's a beautiful day here in the state of Kentucky.
You're in Kentucky. You're in a 1997 Ford Explorer. You're never going to be able to get a new car, by the way. It's just not happening for you. And you're like, hell yeah, I love that we're not getting our taxes. Donald Trump's going to take my taxes away. Oh, my God. Oh, no. We are so freaking cooked, dude. We are cooked. We're cooked. Are we destined to cycle the same shit? Did this kind of disinformation occur prior to the Great Depression? Never at this like rapid clip, because there was just no way to misinform one another this fast. Yeah, every MAGA guy talking about Trump's tariffs sounds like the George W. Bush defendant from The Onion talking about the Iraq war law. Yeah, counterpoint. No, it won't. No, it won't. It just won't. None of that will happen. You're getting worked up over nothing. Everything's going to be fine. So just relax, okay? You're really overreacting. And it's really funny because I saw what I think it was Jack Posobiec's alt account and wokeness or whatever tweet about the tariffs in the funniest way possible, where even he had to concede that it's bad. Like, it's bad, but he can't fully say it's bad. So he had to turn around and like, well, you know, if it's not bad. Oh, here it is. 55,000 likes, by the way. If these tariffs end up working, nobody will ever trust the experts again. Dog, you never trusted the experts. And it's fine not to trust the experts. I don't trust the experts either. Okay? But like, you don't have to be an expert to recognize that this is just completely busted because you're feeling it right now. And the very fact that you're feeling it right now is the reason why you said if these tariffs end up working. As in, you also are aware that it is not working, and there is a likelihood that it won't work. It is awesome. Okay? It is hilarious.
Though some feel the change will be worth it eventually.
It's going to be a hard adjustment for a lot of people.
What? What leads you to believe this? What? Other than other than sheer belief in Donald Trump. Okay? Why? Aside from just simply having this cultish attitude towards dear leader who will fix it all because you think he's brilliant and brave and, more laughably, cares about you, what is leading you? What is an indicator that makes you think things are going to be better? Just blind faith placed upon a billionaire asshole born with a silver spoon who has demonstrably never cared about anyone but himself. What are we doing? God damn, I'm jealous, though. On the other side, I'm jealous because, one, like I've said, tariffs in and of itself, not necessarily something I'm against. Trade protectionism, not something I'm against. Free trade and the way that it is designed is bad for the global south, and it's bad for the United States of America and the American manufacturing capabilities, as we've seen over the course of the past couple of decades. So I look to all of this, and I look to what Trump is doing with envy, with resentment first and anger, but then also with envy, because he gets to do this shit, and he gets to do it in the wrong direction, not even in the right direction, and it pisses me off. It makes me so mad that one singular telegenic guy who was able to take over the infrastructure of the Republican Party and basically rebuild it in his own vision with a little bit of populist sentiment baked into it, with no real motivation to enact any sort of popular policies that will help his base, can get away with basically destroying his base first and foremost. When these guys, like when Trump cuts funding to like telehealth facilities, right? Who do you think that hurts the most? It hurts poor people, yes, but it hurts people in rural areas the most. When they talk about changing the funding mechanism for the USPS, for the U.S. Postal Service, who do you think gets over in that process? If they privatize the U.S. Postal Service, who do you think doesn't get their medicine? Rural people, his base. He is directly killing his base first and foremost. Same shit happened in COVID. Who died during COVID at an alarming rate? People in red states. It is alarming.
But I believe in Trump.
And we are starting to see other nations respond to these tariffs. This morning, China has now announced in retaliation they'll be imposing an additional.
Trump supporters just don't care. My stepdad got laid off as a welder in Trump's first term because of the tariffs, and his dumbass voted for him again and still has stickers and signs everywhere. Rural Ohio moment and a type 1 diabetic son. Jesus Christ, dude. These guys want to cut Medicaid. Who do you think relies on Medicaid? Rural hospitals that are already in a state of disrepair. That's who relies on Medicaid. He actively is killing. He is like Pol Pot, but instead of people wearing glasses, he's just killing his fans. Even these tariffs, the first industry that goes down with the tariffs is the Trump MAGA merch stores, okay? His diehard loyalists. It's insane. And they don't recognize it. And the worst part is we don't do outreach in these communities anyway, and we have no motion in these communities anyway because the Democrats can't go there and talk to them like real people and be like, hey, have you noticed that getting really bad for you specifically? Perhaps it's because this guy doesn't care about you, and here's how we're going to fix it. They can't even do that. They can't do that because their solution is tax cuts to the tune of $25,000 for small businesses that work in underserved neighborhoods if you were a HBCU graduate. It's like, what are we doing? Like, the Democrats have dropped the ball so consistently in the process that, like, these guys will just still go with the guy who's like, I hate you, I'm going to kill you, you're going to die 1,000 deaths. Everything you know, you will lose. And these guys go, hell yeah, Mr. President, I would rather do that than vote for the gay party.
Additional 34% tariff on all.
HVAC, Trump's big sector, is to death right now. Dude, look at my earlier message. I'm in the industry. Yeah, my HVAC Hasanabi heads. Hasan, today was my last day of working in an HVAC business. Everything was on fire today. They had to cancel 40 pallets of heat pumps from China. Prices are going up 75% for HVAC equipment. Luckily, I got a union job as a train conductor 2 weeks ago. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, brother. Let's get to Benny Johnson because I want to hear from the real Americans. I want to hear from the Americans of impact, the Americans of note, the Americans of notoriety, brilliant Americans. What is Benny Johnson saying about these tariffs? Let's take a look.
This is just the reality of life. You're gonna, like, were you young and dumb? How much money did you lose? Everyone loses money. Everyone loses money. It costs you nothing. In fact, it builds quite a bit of character. In fact,
ain't no way he's doing the raise the price of rent. That'll just make me grind harder. Has he been crying? What is happening? Bro. Oh.
You learn a lot of lessons, actually, by losing money. Losing your character costs you everything. Losing your country costs you everything. There are things you can't get back. The government can print more money, and it will. Sadly, that's just the reality. It's fugazi. It's just so there's a boom and a bust every 10 years, and it's been that way since the invention of modern markets in the 1600s. The Dutch crash of 1649. You ever heard of it? It's just the way that it works. It's the way that, like, monetary policy has always worked. There's going to be ups and downs, especially as the table gets.
Oh my God! Yeah, look at the Great Depression. It just happens. It just happens, and it's fine, and it's okay. You shouldn't say that unimaginable pain that comes out of that is anything but a character building moment. It's just simply an opportunity for you to learn how to make water soup. That builds character. Ketchup sandwiches, a character building operation. Think about that. That's right.
It's reset. If you lose the character of your country, if your town gets hollowed out.
Amazing to think people like this have friends that don't say, "What are you talking about, dude?" Well, he doesn't have any friends. Just dick appointments.
Give me that photo of that town, man. Give me the photo of that town in West Virginia. If your town gets hollowed out and your entire neighborhood gets addicted to opioids and your steel mill shuts down and your farmers can't grow crops and there's no more cattle ranchers, there's no more cowboys, there's no more fishers, there's no more workers.
Hyperinflation, period of hyperinflation incoming, a entire generation of war veterans that have no jobs, okay, and no economic prospects, the erosion of due process and other civil liberties, a process in which you are expeditiously denaturalizing and removing people from their citizenship status. Welcome back, Gadolf Hitler. This is what's going on. Okay? Trump is even zestier than Gadolf.
And we're completely and totally dependent upon slave labor peasants across Asia to make every
Gadolf Hitler
good and service and pharmaceutical, then you've actually lost your country. And then we are the slaves. There you go. This is West Virginia. And it's so sad that this was a factory that provided thousands of honest, good-hearted, steel-working jobs.
Dude, it's kind of funny that virtually every single person that has funded Benny Johnson is more responsible for that photo than anyone else that he's talking about here. Like the people that directly fund Benny Johnson so he can implement this right-wing project are straightforwardly the only people in American society that are responsible for this. More so than even the Democrats and the Republican politicians. Okay? And certainly a lot more responsibility falls on their hands than random Malaysian and Chinese people. Okay? It's not the Vietnamese government. It's not the Chinese government that did this. It is the people that he is tasked with defending that did this. His entire purpose on planet Earth is to sit there and make the remaining fans of his, the Benny Johnson heads out there, not recognize that reality by reshifting their attention to trans people or undocumented migrants or woke or whatever the new hot thing is to get mad about. That is literally all he does. That is what all Republicans do. That's what Democrats do as well in a different way. But this is this right here, what you're watching right here in and of itself is also repurposing that same propaganda.
For our fellow countrymen. And it was ripped. The guts of it got ripped out and shipped by people like Mitch McConnell so that they could make a couple extra points in their portfolio.
People like Mitch McConnell, brother, you are serving the same masters. You're a part of the same party. You have the same ideology. You have defended Mitch McConnell your entire career. These guys are insane.
To get stock swaps with Pan-Asian countries. And they sold out their countrymen, and I call that traitorism, actually. I think that's the definition of a traitor. You can lose money. You can lose points in your portfolio. It costs you absolutely nothing. You won't miss them when you're dead. Nobody ever had their net worth carved onto their tombstone.
Like, rip Benny Johnson out of this equation and put like Jason Unruhe in his stead, and the argument doesn't even need to change. It's who he is that makes this ridiculous. Because what he's saying is not ridiculous. What he's not saying, on the other hand, what he's omitting is the part that is disingenuous. Okay? Because, yes, Mitch McConnell is responsible for this. Yes, the Democrats are responsible for this. But they did this at the behest of capital. Okay? That is the major problem here. Benny Johnson, who has defended those masters and has defended those interests his entire career, is now making a heel turn because he's playing catch up and trying to defend Donald Trump's decisions. But what he's saying is not wrong. The problem is it should be the anti-fascist, anti-capitalist, worker-backed party that is supposed to be a counterbalance against the reactionary, hyper-capitalist forces in this country, and we don't have that. So in the absence of that, the absence of the Democratic Party representing that, right, you have these Republicans try and fill that void.
Doesn't even matter when you're on your deathbed. Who cares? It's just digits on a ledger. What will matter is, did you preserve your nation for your children?
Okay, never mind. This part is also white supremacist callbacks. He said what really matters is, did you preserve your nation for your children? It's missing. He's doing 13 words, not 14. You know what I mean? Just one word missing from that. The word that's missing is white. That's it. That's the famous 14 words that he's doing a callback to without saying white.
Did you view your country as something more than just an economic zone and tax cattle and slaves to China? Put that up, President Trump. No crying in the casino. Is it really? I don't care. It's too good. Final point I'll make on this is, who's the slave and who's the master?
He's like, we must remember the dialectic. The bourgeois capital-owning class has designed our political economy to suit their purpose. This inherent contradiction will inevitably get to a point where it's unmanageable. I'm Benny Johnson, and I approve.
You know, if your pharmaceutical and automobile and phone, all the wires in your home, every electronic in your home, if everything that you use in your life is wholly and totally built by a foreign power that hates you, then you're the slave. You've always thought of America as the master of the world or as like an empire, but it's not. Not if we are totally dependent and on our knees before these third world goblin dictatorships. So it's time for a total reset. It's time for them to know who's boss.
These guys went from the Great Reset is happening by the World Economic Forum to the Great Reset is happening and it's good.
And it's time for us to be the master once again. That's the point of this country, actually, to be the master of our own destinies.
Wow. A somber tone from Benny Johnson. Very different attitude, very different approach. Now let's look at the other side of the Republican Party who hasn't forgotten who pays their checks. Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is having a moment where he will go back to his classical liberal ways, okay? Ben Shapiro has not forgotten where his bread is buttered, and he is also ideologically consistent, and he's not going to play catch-up and try to defend Donald Trump's indefensible policies, at least now. He will in a couple months. He will. But for the time being, he's going to be like, this is stupid. This is incredibly dumb. I hate it. And the reason why he's doing that is because he is a real free trade guy. He does believe in it. Just like the Rand Pauls of the world believe in it. Just like the former Republican Party actively believed in it and defended these policies because they understood that this was truly beneficial for the capital-owning class, even if it completely gutted the American manufacturing capabilities, the American labor force. It was fine because profits were sky high.
President Trump declared that
profits were sky high, and they never thought that China would be able to take advantage of the situation with redistributive policies, with even development, with rapid expansion, with rapid urbanization. They never thought that China would be able to improve its material realities and not only be a competitive force, but one that could even dominate the United States of America in the global marketplace. That is precisely the reason why these guys entertain the notion of moving manufacturing overseas, specifically to China, the Genghis Gambit, without little care or consideration for what that might do to the United States of America, because they never gave a shit about their countrymen.
was in fact Liberation Day, his giant tariff policy that he just dropped on the market unilaterally, probably unconstitutionally. Trump's reciprocal tariffs impose hundreds of billions of dollars in new taxes on Americans, be the largest tax increase since the Revenue Act of 1968. One of the biggest tax increases on American consumers in the history of America. And it's going to cost American consumers. It will cost American producers who use inputs from other countries. The Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted immediately more than 1,000 points. The S&P 500 plummeted more than 3%. The NASDAQ plummeted almost 4.5%. There are real-world implications for this sort of stuff. Trade wars are, in fact, not good and not easy to win, particularly if you don't actually have a plan. It is predicated on a bad idea of how international trade works. A fundamental misunderstanding of trade deficits. Trade deficits they're an accounting procedure. Trade deficits have pretty much nothing to do with the health of an economy. I can name you a period in American history where there was a fairly large surplus in America's balance of trade. The entire Great Depression.
Bro got 99% tariff on wet. Oh, no. Oh, that's insane. That's an insane statement, chatter. It's correct, but you shouldn't say it. Here's Ian Miles Wrong, who has, once again, never lived in the United States of America. As far as I understand, never stepped foot inside of the United States of America, is instead someone who lives in Malaysia. You might not recognize that, though, from the way he's going to talk about the Trump cuts. The Trump tariffs. Let's take a look.
I like Trump. I think we need to know how they calculated these things and be like, oh yeah, America first. Like, we have to be educated on this. The public needs to understand why they're going to be paying more for products in certain countries. Like, why are Nike shoes going to go up by like 50%? If all Nike shoes are made in Vietnam, then the price will effectively be going up by what? 46%? So you'll be effectively paying 50% more for your shoes, for your Nikes. That's insane. This means that Americans are going to have less purchasing power, if anything. If stuff is just more expensive, then your money's worth less. I like Trump. I think we need to know how.
When he says, I think we need, I'm thinking to myself, like, what do you mean we? Because you don't live in America. You've never lived in America. You're not an American citizen. And as far as I understand, you've never stepped foot inside of the United States of America. Are you talking about the tariffs placed upon Malaysia? Is that what you're saying? Where, like, the impact on this? When he says we, he's talking about Malaysians. He's talking about the Malaysian population and the Malaysian industry. I think that's what he's talking about, right? Because you're not American. You don't live in America. I don't think this will impact you in the ways that you think it'll impact you, at least.